At the beginning of the story, we're introduced to a young girl named Yeosian, who is studying in school. After class, she waits outside, expecting her mother to pick her up. However, her mother calls to say she won't be able to come. With no other choice, Yeosian decides to head home on her own. As she starts walking, heavy rain begins to pour. Just then, a black car pulls up beside her. She sees a man inside and without saying a word, Yeosian quietly gets into the car. When Yeosian arrived home, she was completely soaked from the rain, her hair was tangled, her clothes were dirty, and her whole appearance suggested that something terrible had happened. But what was even more unsettling was her mother's reaction. She was visibly horrified, too terrified to even look at her daughter. That's when the chilling truth was revealed that Yeosian had actually died a week earlier. Yet ever since her death, she had been returning home every day at the same time, always in the same dreadful state. The story then flashes back to 10 days earlier, inside a large luggage store where the shop owner is seen watching the news on TV. Through the broadcast, we learn that a serial killer is on the loose in the city, striking every 10 days. The killer's disturbing pattern involves placing the victims' bodies inside trolley bags and dumping them into the water. Just then, a man named Sung-hyuk enters the shop and purchases a red trolley bag. But his behavior is noticeably odd and unsettling. Later that day, a pizza delivery boy named Sang-yoon delivers an order to Sung-hyuk's apartment. While handing over the pizza, he hears strange and unsettling noises coming from inside the room. However, Sang-yoon brushes it off and leaves without giving it much thought. It's then revealed that Sung-hyuk is indeed the serial killer who abducted Yeosian. We discover that before every murder, he follows a disturbing routine like purchasing a trolley bag and ordering a pizza. Yeosian desperately begs for her life, promising to stay silent and go straight home if he lets her go. But Sung-hyuk, cold and emotionless, ignores her pleas. He strikes her on the head with a heavy object. Then places her lifeless body into the red trolley bag and disposes of it by throwing it into the river. When the news aired on TV, the shop owner recognized the red trolley bag and began to suspect that the killer could be the same man he had sold it to. He considered contacting the police, but his wife stopped him. She reminded him that bags like that are sold in many stores and warned him not to get involved in something so dangerous. After hearing her advice, the shop owner decided not to report anything to the authorities. Meanwhile, the pizza delivery boy, Sang-yoon, is scrolling through the news online when something catches his attention. Sung-hyuk places a pizza order every 10 days, matching the timeline of the murders. This realization sparks growing suspicion in Sang-yoon's mind. On the other side, Yeosian's mother, just like every day she hid beneath the table, clutching a cross with trembling hands, terrified of the moment her daughter's spirit would return home at the exact same time. Just then, her husband arrived. Seeing her in such a panicked state, he pulled her up and led her into Yeosian's room. There, he confronted her with a painful truth: Yeosian was already gone. He believed she was simply imagining things and accused her of being a terrible mother, suggesting she was scaring their daughter by waving a cross at her. In frustration, he said she probably never truly accepted Yeosian as her own child. His harsh words left her in tears, and she began to remember the moments she had shared with Yeosian. The heartbreaking reality was Yeosian was not her biological daughter. The story then shifts focus to a man named Hyuk-mo, who lives in the same neighborhood. One day, the police arrive and arrest him as a suspect in the ongoing murder case. His neighbors already view him as a troublemaker and a thug, so the suspicion doesn't come as a surprise. The police target him because there have been 6 or 7 assault complaints filed against him in the past. They collect his fingerprints and DNA samples, but eventually release him due to a lack of solid evidence. Before letting him go, the officers sternly warn him to stay out of trouble. Immediately after leaving the police station, Hyuk-mo visits a man to collect a debt and ends up beating him badly. But this isn't just about money, because Hyuk-mo carries a deep resentment toward the man, who is actually his mother's brother, his uncle. Ever since Hyukemo's mother passed away, his uncle never once visited or offered any support. He didn't even show up at her funeral. Because of this abandonment, Hyukemo harbors a deep and bitter hatred toward him. The story then introduces two more characters, Jae-yun, the building security guard, and Tae-seon, the head of the housing society. All the community responsibilities fall under Tae-seon's management. She also has a daughter named Soo-yun, who bears an uncanny resemblance to Yeo-seon. In one scene, Tae-seon is seen scolding Jae-yun for not doing his job properly. Several residents have complained that someone has been throwing away large amounts of food. Concerned, Tae-seon orders the security guard to investigate the matter and identify who is responsible. After that, the security guard begins inspecting all the garbage bags one by one. During his search, he comes across the same bag of wasted food, and inside it, he finds another black plastic bag. Hidden inside is a clue, an apartment number. It turns out to be the apartment of the killer. Realizing what he's found, the guard comes up with a plan to blackmail the killer. He approaches him and subtly hints that he'll keep quiet in exchange for some cash, pretending it's just money for drinks. However, the killer coldly refuses to cooperate. Enraged, the guard begins to open the black plastic bag right in front of the killer. Inside, he discovers Yeo-seon's school uniform. Realizing that his secret has been uncovered, the killer immediately murders the guard on the spot. Just then, Yeo-seon's mother happens to enter the apartment. She's horrified to see what appears to be blood splattered across the floor. But her attention is quickly drawn to a shattered bottle of red wine spilled on the stairs. In truth, the killer had deliberately smashed the bottle to cover up the bloodstains, making it seem like an innocent accident so no one would suspect anything. Each night, Yeo-seon returned home in the same haunting condition, leaving her mother deeply shaken. The moment she saw her daughter, she would shut her eyes in fear. Then, the story reveals what actually happened that dreadful night. As we know, Yeo-seon had gotten into Sung-hyuk's car to go home. When they arrived at the apartment, Sung-hyuk asked her to unlock the door to his unit. The moment she did, he suddenly covered her mouth and dragged her inside. Yeo-seon was abducted right across the hall from her own home. After that, Yeo-seon was murdered, and her body was quietly removed from the apartment and dumped in the river without raising any suspicion from anyone. Meanwhile, the delivery boy Sang-yoon continues following the news about the serial killer. While looking at a photo, his eyes land on a man wearing a black cap. The sight of the man unsettles him. He's sure he's seen him somewhere before, but he can't quite place it. Just then, Sang-yoon gets another pizza order and once again, it's for the same apartment where the killer lives. While delivering the pizza, Sang-yoon looks around the apartment with growing suspicion. That's when he notices the same black cap, which only heightens his unease. The next day, the killer returns to the same bag shop to purchase another trolley bag. Out of fear, the shopkeeper quickly takes the money and shoves it into his pocket without even bothering to count it. Sensing the nervous behavior, the killer begins to grow suspicious of the shopkeeper as well. The next day, the building's head, Tae-seon, notices the day shift security guard hasn't reported for duty. She instructs the night shift guard, Jong-rok, to cover the daytime responsibilities as well. However, working during the day proves difficult for Jong-rok. While he's in the office, a man approaches and says, "You never work during the day," then pointedly asks, "What if someone recognizes you in broad daylight?" It becomes clear that Jong-rok has a reason for avoiding daytime shifts and something that will only be revealed at the movie's climax. Keep watching. In the following scene, Yeo-seon's mother arrives at a garage to retrieve her car. The truth is, on the day her daughter went missing, she hadn't picked her up from school because she had just bought a new car. Along with it, she had also chosen a cute little hairband as a surprise gift for Yeo-seon. She intended to surprise her daughter, which is why she told her over the phone that she wouldn't be able to come, but in reality, she was actually on her way to pick her up. Unfortunately, while driving, the hairband slipped and fell. As she reached to grab it, she lost control of the vehicle and got into a serious accident. Meanwhile, the night shift guard is now reluctantly working the day shift as well. That day, he called the killer's apartment to question why his water bill was unusually high, but the killer simply hung up on him without answering. A short while later, the building manager, Tae-seon, visited the killer's apartment to personally invite him to a residence meeting. Upon entering, she immediately noticed the lights inside were uncomfortably bright and instinctively switched them off. As she glanced around, she grew suspicious of the apartment's messy and unsettling condition and began to inspect the place more closely. Sensing her growing suspicion, the killer decided he needed to eliminate her too. However, at that exact moment, Tae-seon casually mentioned during a phone call that she was currently inside apartment 102. Hearing this, the killer hesitated and lowered his weapon because if anything happened to her, the police would come straight to his door for questioning. At that exact moment, the security guard called the killer's phone again. But this time, the phone was set on vibration and it slipped into the trolley bag. As it fell in, the lid suddenly snapped shut and locked. Realizing that his phone was now trapped inside the bag along with the body and that he didn't remember the unlock code, the killer began to panic. With no other choice, he called the same bag shop owner and nervously asked for the code. The shopkeeper calmly replied that the default combination was set to 000. The next day, while walking down the street, Yeo-seon's mother suddenly spotted Soo-yeon and froze in shock. Overwhelmed by fear, she couldn't move. Soo-yeon quickly ran to her, trying to calm her down. When they returned to their apartment building, the killer happened to see them and instantly panicked. His mind went blank with confusion. How could the girl he was certain he had killed be standing there, alive? As Soo-yeon was about to leave, Yeo-seon's mother noticed the man staring at her with an eerie, unsettling intensity. His strange and nervous behavior only fueled her suspicions. On her way back, Soo-yeon came across an eyeglass belonging to the missing security guard. She handed them over to the current night shift guard. Upon seeing them, another man in the guard's office said, "These belong to the old guard." Growing suspicious, the night shift guard decided to check the pipes in the killer's apartment. But when he approached the killer, it refused to let him in, saying he would be moving out soon and the inspection could wait. However, the guard insisted. He reminded the killer that, according to building regulations, a full inspection by all technicians must be conducted before any tenant vacates the unit. The killer, realizing that multiple people entering his apartment would inevitably expose his secret, began to panic. With no other choice, he reluctantly opened the door and let the guard in. Inside the apartment's bathroom, the guard didn't find any signs of leakage. However, when he went down to check the basement bathroom, he stumbled upon a horrifying scene of blood splattered across the walls, human hair, and pieces of flesh scattered around. It didn't take him long to realize he had just uncovered the killer's crime scene. As the gravity of the situation sank in, the guard became alert. The killer, realizing he had been found out, tried to attack, but the guard quickly grabbed a nearby object to defend himself. The determination and readiness in the guard's expression made the killer hesitate. For the first time, fear flickered in his eyes. He instinctively stepped back, sensing that this wouldn't be an easy target. Once the guard left the apartment, the killer breathed a sigh of relief. But from that moment on, he began secretly watching the guard's every move from a distance. One day, Hyuk-mo pulled up to the apartment complex and furiously attacked the killer, beating him up for parking in his designated spot. With all these events piling up and his behavior drawing more attention, the killer realized it was time to disappear and his true identity was starting to unravel. He visited his employment agency and requested a job transfer to another city, planning to leave in exactly 2 days. But before disappearing, he made up his mind to eliminate the bag shop owner, fearing that the man might have figured out who he really was and could go to the police. To cover his tracks, the killer used the shopkeeper's phone to call Hyuk-mo, intending to leave a trail that would shift suspicion onto him in case the phone was discovered during an investigation. After that, he kidnapped the shopkeeper. Staying true to his pattern, he ordered a pizza before committing the murder. After Sang-yoon delivered the pizza, he noticed blood on his hands. Upon inspecting the cash, he found bloodstains there too. At that point, Sang-yoon's suspicions turned into certainty. He decided to monitor the killer's apartment from outside, but the killer quickly grew suspicious and rushed to the window. Fortunately, the night shift security guard showed up just in time and saved Sang-yoon from being discovered. Sang-yoon then confided everything to the guard and urged him to report it to the police. However, the guard became visibly nervous at the mention of police involvement. He flatly refused, warning that if Sang-yoon's suspicions turned out to be wrong, he could be imprisoned for filing a false report. At midnight, the killer called Hyuk-mo, telling him to move his car. When Hyuk-mo stepped outside, he noticed that his car was already parked correctly. Just then, the killer emerged from the shadows holding a metal rod and attempted to attack him. But Hyuk-mo quickly overpowered him, seizing the rod and beating the killer with it repeatedly. The beating was so severe that the killer ended up on the ground, clutching Hyuk-mo's legs and pleading for mercy. However, this was all part of the killer's calculated plan. He had deliberately provoked the attack to get Hyuk-mo's fingerprints on the metal rod as evidence he could later use to frame him. Though the killer hadn't killed the bag shop owner yet, he had a specific and sinister reason for keeping him alive for now. The next morning, as the killer prepares to leave his apartment for good, he makes a chilling decision and he plans to kill Soo-yeon. From early in the day, he begins following her movements. Like every day, Soo-yeon stops by to visit the security guard, with whom she's formed a strong bond. She brings him bread from school daily, and although he's allergic to it, he always accepts it with a smile and quietly stores it in his fridge instead of eating it. His affection and protective instinct for Soo-yeon run deep. That morning, the guard also notices the killer tailing her. Concerned, he gently asks Soo-yeon if she usually walks home alone. She assures him that her mother always picks her up from school. Still, the guard firmly warns her not to return home by herself, no matter what. After Soo-yeon leaves, the killer begins following her in his car. At the same time, Yeo-seon's mother happens to witness this and realizes with certainty that her suspicions about the man were true. Meanwhile, the security guard begins packing up, preparing to leave the apartment complex. His colleague in the office questions him, asking if he's really planning to walk away now, especially with Soo-yeon being targeted by a dangerous killer. He urges the guard to act, even suggesting he should kill the man, since he's done it before. That's when a shocking truth is revealed: the colleague the guard constantly talks to in the office isn't alive. He's been dead for years. In fact, the guard killed him 14 years ago, and the man is now just a ghost and only visible to the guard. The guard then confesses that he only has 5 months left and doesn't want to risk any more trouble. In Korea, the statute of limitations for serious crimes like murder used to be 15 years. If the perpetrator isn't caught within that time, they can no longer be legally punished. And the guard was counting down those final months. The next day, the police arrested Hyuk-mo once again after discovering the same metal rod at the crime scene, now bearing his fingerprints. However, this time, his uncle stepped forward as a witness and testified that Hyuk-mo was with him on that day. Later, his uncle explained the truth behind his absence during Hyuk-mo's most difficult time. When Hyuk-mo's mother passed away, his uncle had been completely bankrupt, overwhelmed with debt and shame. He had gone into hiding and couldn't even attend his sister's funeral or check on Hyuk-mo. Upon hearing this, Hyuk-mo finally understood and chose to forgive him. Meanwhile, just as before, Yeo-seon's spirit returned home at the exact same time and in the same condition. But this time, her mother was no longer afraid. Earlier that day, she had discovered something in Yeo-seon's room that changed everything. She saw a calendar where Yeo-seon had marked her stepmother's birthday. Though the note originally read stepmother's birthday, the word stepmother was covered with a small piece of paper. Underneath, Yeo-seon had written Mom. It turned out Yeo-seon had wanted to call her stepmother Mom for a long time but had never been able to say it aloud. After reading this in her daughter's diary, her mother was overcome with emotion. When she saw Yeo-seon's spirit again, she embraced her tightly, sobbing. In that moment, all the things she failed to understand when her daughter was alive came crashing down on her and filling her with sorrow, regret, and love. Meanwhile, the shopkeeper was fighting desperately for his life. From inside a black suitcase, he heard a phone ringing and began struggling with all his strength to open it. That night, heavy rain began to fall once more. The sound and sight of the rain triggered a painful memory for Yeo Seon's mother. It reminded her of the morning she saw the killer trailing Soo-yeon. It had been on a rainy night just like this that she had lost her own daughter. But this time, she was determined not to let anything happen to Soo-yeon. Grabbing an umbrella, she rushed to the bus stop. There, she found Soo-yeon standing alone, with the killer lurking nearby. Without hesitation, she took Soo-yeon's hand and started walking home. But even then, the killer continued to follow them. Meanwhile, the shopkeeper finally managed to unlock the suitcase and retrieve the phone inside. With the battery nearly dead, he quickly redialed a random number and pleaded for help. Luckily, the call connected to the delivery boy, Sang-yoon. Wasting no time, Sang-yoon raced toward the killer's apartment. Around the same time, a power outage swept across the entire city. Taking advantage of the blackout, Hyuk-mo was assisted by his uncle to escape from police custody. Back at the apartment complex, the security guard, who had been preparing to leave for good, turned back upon seeing the lights go out. He rushed inside and frantically asked Tae-seon if Soo-yeon had returned home. When she told him no, he was devastated. Tae-seon, overcome with fear for her daughter, began crying uncontrollably. Meanwhile, Yeo Seon's mother and Soo-yeon were rushing through the darkness, trying to make it home safely. But during their escape, Soo-yeon tripped and injured her knees so badly that she could no longer walk. Stranded in the pitch-black night, Yeo Seon's mother stood frozen in the middle of the road, uncertain of what to do. Her presence caused a traffic jam as cars came to a stop, creating a commotion. Seeing the growing crowd, the killer had no choice but to back off and return to his apartment. When he got back, he found the shopkeeper attempting to escape. Furious, the killer decided to burn him alive. But before he could carry out his plan, the pizza delivery boy Sang-yoon and the security guard arrived at his door. The moment he opened it, the two immediately launched a fierce attack on him. At that very moment, Hyuk-mo also arrived. Realizing how the killer had set him up by planting his fingerprints on the metal rod, he joined the others and began beating the killer furiously. The security guard then demanded to know where Soo-yeon was, but the killer just laughed cruelly and said he didn't know. Maybe she was dead or maybe she was still alive. Crushed by the uncertainty, the guard broke down, overcome with emotion. Then, he noticed a body lying nearby. Believing it to be Soo-yeon, he flew into a rage, picked up a weapon, and killed the murderer on the spot. But moments later, he realized the corpse wasn't Soo-yeon at all, it was the same man he had killed 14 years ago. The ghost had taken Soo-yeon's form to finally take his revenge, because the guard had escaped punishment for that past crime and no one had ever witnessed it. Yet once again, the guard didn't face consequences. The others helped cover up the killing and quietly removed him from the crime scene. Meanwhile, Tae-seon still believed Hyuk-mo was responsible and grabbed him, demanding to know her daughter's whereabouts. Just then, Yeo Seon's mother appeared and brought Soo-yeon with her. Though she hadn't been able to save Yeo Seon, that night she saved another innocent child. And that's where the story ends. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also hit the notification bell to get updated on every video that we upload. Thank you and have a great day.